So next week, we will all be making our annual pilgrimage up the mountain to Davos, to the World Economic Forum. Ahead of the forum, they've released their latest risks report. It's the top risks over the next 2 years. Misinformation, especially AI-generated misinformation. There is also societal polarization, cyber insecurity, and interstate armed conflict. I think that's wars between countries, to you and me. It comes as a pivotal time. 50 plus countries have national elections. Half the world's population is going to vote in some shape or form this year. Saadia Zahidi is the managing director at WEF and is with me now. First of all, let's just look at this idea of disinformation and AI. With elections round the corner, we're already seeing it. But the problem is what to do about it.
Yeah, so there's two time frames that we're looking at, right? So the 2-year mis and disinformation, but when you look out at the 10-year time frame, most of those risks are still very much about the climate emergency. They're very much about, could the Earth go over tipping points? Could there be more extreme weather? And so what this is really about is how do we make that bridge between those two different time frames? This is the here and now crisis, mis and disinformation, and what that then does to all those other risks. And then how do you bridge that to decision making for the long term?
Yeah, but, you know, that sounds great. The problem is it's moving faster than traditional decision-making mechanisms can cope with. We've seen this in elections before.
So last year, mis and disinformation was somewhere just into the top 20, and it's shot up to #1 in the 2-year time frame. So it's very clear, with everybody having access to either zero cost or very low cost technology in their hands where they can generate synthetic content, it's understandably concerned that that is going to put in the hands of people that mean ill a technology that could be used for spreading false information.
We've got, I mean, I suppose let's be clear about this. You know, the US election is probably the big one that everybody is talking about. Now, not only do you have disinformation within the United States from right-wing groups and left-wing groups alike, but also, you know, arguably state actors like Russia or China also meddling. How do we cope?
So I think it's about many countries. Now, nearly 4 billion people may be going to some form of national or municipal election, but the risk of mis and disinformation is different in different economies depending on the level of technological and digital and media literacy in those countries. So, for example, in the US, it doesn't show up in the top 5 risks, but when you look at India, it's the #1 risk. When you look at Pakistan, it's the #5 risk. So it also depends on where you are.
This year's theme, Hallelujah. Davos has a theme that's not very long, complicated, and I can actually understand. It's all about trust. The deficit of trust, we were talking about it with the founder, Klaus Schwab, this weekend. But this combination, deficit of trust, misinformation, AI, which we're told is a great bonanza for the future, and yet what? We're left flailing around.
All of that landing on top of a situation where there is a lot of economic hardship. I think that's one element of the report. Economic downturn risks, inflation risks in the US, those are some of the critical concerns, in addition to potentially energy shortages and securing that supply in the long term. So I think all of that societal polarization, that risk of mis and disinformation, the rising disruption from artificial intelligence to labor markets, all of that together happening at the same time, that sort of polycrisis, that's, I think, the main concern.
You're looking forward to next week?
I am, because I think that's our moment to actually bring people together for the dialogue that's needed, for building a common vision, and most importantly, actually delivering on action.
That's the key part. That's the bit that people often say doesn't really happen as a result of. But
you know, we're tracking measurement against what we've committed to, the coalitions that have come together, the initiatives that have been put in place, and there is progress, and you'll see more of that next week.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you very much. See you up the mountain.
See you there.
Thank you very much indeed.